Thank you. I'm an alum of Park University. Back when I went to school there, it was called Park College. I was in the Air Force. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my autobiography. But before I get started, I want to talk about the Texas Society of CPAs. I'm a member, been a member ever since I took the class from Eddie Mixon. And when he came in and I heard the name, I thought it was familiar, but when I saw him, I knew who he was. He actually helped me pass the CPA exam. And I would say, to echo what he said, you've got to be committed. And to echo what he said about his friend, we had to take all 4 parts in a 2-day period. And I didn't pass the FAR the first time. And I thought I had paid the price. I was prepared to jump off the Congress Avenue Bridge. Now they call it something else now. But I think I made a 70 on it. But when I got back to take it again, went back through the Becker materials, I felt that they didn't plumb the depths of my accounting knowledge. There wasn't a single question I didn't know how to answer. When I took it the first time, I think I stayed there until 15 minutes to finish. I was just so frustrated. When I took it the second time, I think I finished it in 2 hours. I was so confident of everything that I did. I made a very good grade. I may tell you if you ask. But what I wanted to mention to you here, we have today's CPA, I think someone mentioned it earlier. This is the magazine of the Texas Society of CPAs. And they had an article that touches on what we're going to talk about today. It's called The Potpourri of Professional Certificates in Accounting. What do they stand for? I think the young lady in the Texas. Tennessee, okay, ooh, man. She asked, what do you have to do? So I have a couple of handouts here, and then I'll talk about my autobiography. They were written by Kamala Raghavan. She's a professor at Texas Southern University. She lists all the major certifications. In the article, I like the article better than this list. They talked about maybe 50 to 60 certifications. I would say that the CPA is the granddaddy of them all. I've got a few certifications. I've got the CFE, the CIA, the CPA, the CGMA, the Chartered Global Management Accountant. I fell into that a bit earlier last year. And I would say the CPA is the most comprehensive financial certification available. None of them were as difficult as that. It didn't cause me to put my life on hold like that one did. I'm just saying that it takes, when you're working, you got to be structured in your approach to preparing for the exam. You're going to have, like Eddie said, when you finish your accounting degree, you're going to have your cost accounting and your intermediate and your advanced financial accounting and an audit course. You may not have governmental, but I feel like governmental helped me on what we call the ARE back then. I think they call it REG now. The governmental accounting, or maybe FAR as well. That really helped me. I was in accounting, so intermediate in internal audit, so that works for me. There's another article here that I have. This article that Dr. Raghavan published with the Houston Society of CPAs. They've got chapters all over the state. I'm not here to represent the TSCPA, but I am a member. I'm on the executive board now, so I'll start in June, I think. Thanks to Ed. So this article is the article from this magazine published on Houston's website. Now I want to talk about my autobiography because I think it's important. Given what Bill was talking about, he's a career shifter, so am I. And I'm going to talk about going all the way back. Some of you people look like you're very young. I'm going all the way back, but not as far as Eddie did. Back to 1977, when I earned my Associate of Applied Science when I was in the Air Force. I worked in the Air Force as an electronic technician. I repaired navigation equipment. I was good too. I was outstanding, kind of like the girls that he was talking about. And before I got out, I discovered Park University. Well, it was Park College back then, out at Bergstrom Air Force Base. And I was taking classes at night, working on the flight line during the day. And I ended up with a degree in management. I took some accounting courses. I took one course, well, beyond the principles course, I took intermediate. This was back in '77. They still had the Statement of Changes in Financial Position, which I didn't really understand. But I took the course, I passed the course. By the time I began to take the exam in '93, actually '94, we had this statement of cash flows, which is much more understandable, more direct. I enjoy it. There are some problems with it still, but it's a good statement. I just want to go with you over some of my credentials and how I got there and the timing. She said 5 or 6. I divide them into 2 categories. You got academic certificates, you know, like the degrees that you get from colleges, right? And then you've got what I call professional certificates that you get from some organization. In the case of the CPA, it's the one that I think of that is really a license by a government entity. The rest of them are usually something given out by some private organization. So, got my Bachelor's of Science in Management in 1980, shortly before I got out of the Air Force. I was 26 years of age. I started in Motorola immediately, and I enrolled. I was a veteran, so government's going to pay on the GI Bill for my further education. So I enrolled over at the University of Texas, but I was working at night, and it just got too much, so I transferred to St. Edward's University, where I earned my master's degree in business management in 1984. I was still at Motorola, and I'd taken a few more accounting courses. And I decided after I got my MBA, I wanted to break out and do something else, get away from Motorola and maybe do something else, go into real estate. At that time, and you may remember, we had a big real estate crash around 84, 85, and so I had to go back to work. I went back to work, had my MBA, so it was not hard getting a job. And I was working with a CPA. I was doing market coordinating, market manager. I also did proposal administration. I was working with the CPA. Whenever I did a proposal, the CEO of the company said, well, has the CPA had a chance to look at this? And I would go, I said, well, okay, I'll go talk to her. Got really good friends with the CPA. She was smart, but I knew I was smart too. So I decided, well, this is one of the deals I wanted to do, so I started taking some more accounting courses because I knew that the board wanted you to have a certain number. It wasn't 30 back then. And so I went back to work on getting those hours, and I had one of those epiphanies. I call them an epiphany because it's kind of like Gone with the Wind. I know you're from Mississippi, so you know about Gone with the Wind, Terror, and all that stuff. Where Scarlett O'Hara said, if I have to go home, I got laid off. So I was determined that I would never get laid off again. I would always leave a job or move to a job. I would never run away from a job. I would run towards another job. And so I decided that I would work for that CPA. So I started taking accounting courses. I got laid off in '91. By '93, I was taking the CPA exam. In '95, I had gotten it. February of '95, I was 41 years old. I was working with the city of Austin. When I was preparing for the CPA exam, I was working for the state, Texas Public Utility Commission. But when I earned the CPA, you have to work under the supervision of a CPA, and that was my objective. I got to get under a CPA somewhere. So I ended up at the city of Austin in their internal audit department. And I didn't end up there, but I got there, and I earned my CPA in 1995, 41 years old. In the audit department, you do internal audit, like Bill's talking about here. You help a company. The big thing here is efficiency and effectiveness, and safeguarding assets, and there's a number of things. We have an acronym for it. That's what I learned from Becker, a lot of acronyms. We call it CARES. Compliance, accomplishments, objectives and goal, reliability of information, efficiency and effectiveness, and safeguarding of assets. And so in '97, I passed the CPA exam, and I got the CIA exam, and I transferred to the electric department. It was called electric department when I moved up. Now it's called Austin Energy. And that's where I retired. A couple of years ago, I retired from Austin Energy, so I still get paid. I eventually got assigned to a project. Lady came to me and said, Tony, I don't know what you do, but I know you're a smart guy. I was a CPA by then. So we need you on this project to help convert our billing system from a legacy system, I don't have time to explain that, but to a newer system. And I got on the project, and I just had some issues with the project. I knew what I wanted to do, but the project was supposed to last 7 months, ended up lasting 22 months. And so I decided I needed to upgrade my education. So I decided to go back to St. Edward's, where I earned my MBA, and I earned a graduate certificate in management information systems. Did that in 2001. I was 47 years old, still working for the city. So I actually, in that same year, right after I got the CGMS, I started teaching accounting. I was a CPA, teaching accounting at ACC. I started teaching there, and they went through a SACS certification. SACS is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. In this geographic area here in the southern United States, they accredit educational institutions. And an issue came up, you gotta have 18 graduate hours of accounting, and I had 12. So I went back to school to get my master's in accounting and financial management. Pick up the extra hours. I said, well, I'll just get the extra hours, but I didn't want to just get the extra 6 hours. I said, I might as well get the other master's. And so I earned that in 2006. I was 52 years old. 52, I'm just saying. So I achieved, I guess, the position at the Austin Energy Audit Manager there. They call it a CAE, Chief Audit Executive, but I still reported to some people. There was a couple of levels I had to be. And I decided, and I was working, this audit group, I had 5 people working for me. And one of my auditors was a CFE. He was a certified fraud examiner, and he challenged me. He said, Tony, I don't think you could pass the CFE exam. I said, man, I passed the CPA exam. CFE is going to be a piece of cake. So I studied for it, and I got the CFE in 2009. Oh, it's not bad, the CPA. I was 55 years old. I was 55 when I got that. And
but you didn't have to take any more college courses. For
no other college. I was, man, my college, when I graduated Clark, I had 169 hours. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I'm just saying I had a lot of hours. Still had to meet the requirements of Park. And then final certification, and then I'll recap. The AICPA and SEMA, that's a chartered management accountants over in London, came up with a new certification that they're going to start testing for. January 2015, they're going to start testing for. They grandfathered you in if you had internal audit, some kind of management accounting experience. So actually my last certification, and I'm not sure if I'll go for any more now that I'm an old guy, was in 2011, Chartered Global Management Accountant. I know, Eddie, you probably said, well, I'll let that pass for now. So I was 57 years old and retired when I got that one. Now I would say, I would just summarize my academic credentials this way, my academic certificate. I got an Associate of Applied Science, Bachelor's of Science in Management, Master of Business Administration, Graduate Certificate in MIS, and a Master of Accounting and Financial Management. Now that's all came from somebody's academic deal. Now every one of these except the CGMA, I had to pass a test. And these tests are rigorous. I would say CPA, that's the one I'm most proud of, because that one really cost me some time. I would say it's time well spent, because you really regard it as a professional when you're a CPA. You don't have to do any arguing about what is the correct entry or how we should approach this deal. Is kind of, the CPA kind of says it all. But then it depends on the area you're in as well. If you're in an internal audit group, you're working inside the company, the CIA will work well. With CFE, fraud is rampant out there. I mean, most people are not aware of it, though. What's fraud? Well, fraud could be as innocuous as taking reams of paper home, okay? Taking the backhoe from where you're working and dig a trench in your backyard. That's not authorized. You know what I'm saying? So fraud has a lot of different flavors in it, but then there's some more severe sides. You know, Enron we talked about, Sunbeam, WorldCom, some of the more famous names that you probably studied. And so I'm just telling you that wherever you are, the CPA is very broad. And I'm going to say something, maybe Eddie will agree, but it's deep in some areas. But they can ask you just about anything. So they said, well, they don't ask you this, they will often ask you this maybe. And then of course you didn't talk about the experimental questions they have now. I think we had mostly real questions in the old days. So I would say, get a handout here and consider where you want to go. If you're in education right now, you're going to school, where do you want to be? And try to look up the road. CPA will get you just about anywhere you want to go. I would say that even if you have, when you have the CPA, some areas of these certifications you don't have to take. For instance, with the CIA, you have to take the financial area. They give you a buy on that. So you have to take 3 parts instead of 4 for the CIA. CFE, man, it's much easier than the CFA, CPA. What do you need?
Yeah.
Well,
Like 30 hours.
well, they'd like you to have a degree, but you don't have to have a degree. You need to have the experience is the main thing that they require. And to take the test, you can be in your senior year and you can take the test for the CFE, and as well as for the CIA.
So the experience for that is outside, would you have to take the accounting?
No, you don't have to work with an accountant.
Then what kind of experience do you need?
Oh, well, let's see, police, internal audit is good experience. What else? Private investigation, those sort of things.
So you get to that experience.
Well, let me say, that's true, but you can get a toehold. I didn't have the experience as an internal auditor. The City of Austin's internal audit group, I think, is one of the best ones in the state because they do bring in entry-level people. They do bring in entry-level people. And what happens with internal audit a lot of times is you get into internal audit and you may, because of the work that you do, the concentrations you have, you may end up being in management. Then you come back to internal audit, then you go back out into management. It's very much management focused, and the financial side of it. And I'd say that many of the CIAs are not accountants. And so when I became a CPA, before I became a CIA, it was kind of like, wow. They recognized it right away. There are a number they have a very active chapter here. It's called the Institute of Internal Auditors, Austin chapter. And they have a lot of government members. And I would say as well that they also are looking for entry-level people all the time. You got to actually associate. That's one of the values I think Eddie mentioned. As a professional, you have to associate. You can't just be on your own account. You got to actually join these associations. That's why I like the Texas Society of CPAs. We are really supportive of CPAs and trying to get you going. The stat that he's quoted is real. It's going to be a growth area for you. The Institute of Internal Auditors has a very active chapter. I think they've got probably close to 1,200 members here. About 14, not counting students here, about 100 members for CPAs here in the Austin chapter. The Austin chapter is considered one of the large chapters. Big thing is associate. And if you think you're going to just go in cold, people got to know who you are. And then once you join the organization, do things with them. Volunteer for committee work. That's very important because if people know who you are, people hire who they know. Right? People that don't like them, right? They like them and they like them. They know you've got some kind of professional affinity. The Brits have a certification, they call it Chartered Accountant, which is supposed to be an equivalent to what we have. And actually, when you talk about accounting, you've got two big, I'm starting to lecture now. Starting to lecture. You got two big areas. You got the Anglo-American model, where Brits and Americans, very strong accounting group. It's pretty old, pretty established. And then you have the Continental, where mostly it's law, and it's a very weak profession. here is very strong. They're very well regarded. Most of the standards come from us, comes from our professional organization, FASB, AICPA, they come from us. Whereas in other countries, it's not that way. So why auditors, why CPAs? Because our financial system is built on the integrity of our financial statements, right? People gotta believe what's there. And if they can't believe it, then the whole thing comes crashing down. And that's why the SEC, like Jolene referred to, gave CPAs a franchise. And you know, and there's severe penalties now for, making mistakes. Let's say the Enron mistake. Before the Enron mistake, they could fine them $1,000 and take away their license. Now, I don't know if they didn't say it, but when I was serving on the Behavioral Enforcement Committee over at the board, the legislature passed a law that says up to $25,000 for saying you're a CPA and you're not. No one's been hit with that yet. But I'm just saying, it's a big hammer that's out there. Being a CPA is important, but also these others are as well. Any other questions?
I have a question. It's a career, I guess it's a more career-oriented question, but you were saying that internal auditors are predominantly management. If you were going to, I guess, pursue a career field in that area, would you recommend going for your MPA or MBA? You are personally.
I'm not going to be a CPA. I have no aspiration.
No, you want to be a CPA. But
well, I would go for the MPA.
Yeah, you would go for MPA.
MPA.
Okay.
You know, with the requirements in Texas, that was one of the issues. You know, we have a little time to talk about it, but to make the CPA more professional.
Right.
I mean, not just accounting, but to broaden it out in those business disciplines, like operating, management, you know, these ideas. You got more statistics now, and you got the economics in there. Mm-hmm. That was to broaden out the accountants. Because, and even now, when you look at the BEC part, you got marketing in there, operations. It wasn't, when I was taking it, it wasn't all that. It was really more accounting, as I think about it. We had audit, law, ARE, and FARE. So law and audit were there, but I don't remember a marketing question or any preparation about it. Yeah. So the idea is to broaden the profession. Now with the MPAs, you're probably going to have your business done already. So if I were doing it all over, and again, I'm not a traditional student. I was in the Air Force. I had a career. I had an associate's degree in electronics. I built on that to get a degree in management. And I had to meet somebody to help me understand, and I tell students all the time, okay, management is good, but consider finance or accounting. Because that's, you know, I mean, they take managers, they take an engineer, turn him into a manager. They take a music major, turn him into a manager. I mean, management is not, it's a discipline, but it's not a distinct discipline like accounting, finance, marketing. Well, I tell my students all the time, we've had this conversation, Jolene, that even in school, when you get out into the world, you're going to either be working with an accountant or an accountant will be working for you. Either way, you need to know what they're doing. You need to have confidence in what they're bringing to the table. You know, most business major BBAs, they take two accounting courses. Principles of managerial accounting, principles of financial accounting. And I like to explain it this way. It's the accounting with the training wheels still on. They keep it very simple. They don't tell you all the stuff. And like I think someone said, they weed you out, the finance and the accounting, with the intermediate. They take the training wheel off, tells you everything that's there. I see a few head nods. It's not as simple. I think I was talking to my students the other day, and we were talking about lease accounting. Lease accounting. When you hear about lease accounting, most people say, oh, lease is a lease is a lease is a lease. It's just a lease. But there's so many permutations there involved with it. How do you account for it? And I guess what I would say about accounting is the business people need us. They cut the deals, they do all kind of, you know, they're in a room by themselves, and maybe there's an accountant in there, maybe there's not, and they have a deal, and they say, now, account for this. You've got to know something about accounting theory. That's all I have, unless there are more questions. Wow, I got through this. Oh, there's
Is there
another
one question
Is
there?
there any place that we can start, like you give us information for entry-level accounting or something? Did you know places that help us to go?
Entry level. You know, everybody has to begin somewhere. And I think the best you can do is have some good preparation. Good preparation. Now, you're going to probably end up getting some interviews. You know, you start, you get your, maybe it's an accounting firm, maybe it's in a tax office, or maybe it's in a government agency. You're gonna get the toehold in there, and then they're gonna ask for experience. The best thing I would say is know your craft. You gotta look at this accounting like it's a craft. It's like, I tell my students sometimes, things that we talk about, you won't win any friends at parties talking about amortization schedules. It's not gonna happen, but you've got to know your craft. And so that comes out in an interview. I'm gonna tell you right now, when I hired auditors, I gave them tests. When I interviewed for jobs at Austin Energy, there was a test. Prepare a schedule for bonds, discounts, and the premium on bonds. You've got to know how to put one together. I'm thinking about the test as well. You've got to know how to put it together, because they're not going to ask you the first payment, they're going to ask you the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So I would say be competent. It's not like just passing this test. I remembered Atiasi. You might know Florence Atiasi, teaches over there in Texas. She was one of my intermediate instructors, and she said, you can't just know about accounting. You've got to know accounting. So the best thing I can say to inoculate you for getting a good job is to know the craft. It'll come out in your interview. It'll come out in the way you speak about accounting. It'll come out in the way you write about it. Be competent. Don't just try to get by. You got to know this stuff. Okay, I'm just saying.
It's a wonderful field and a wonderful major.
Oh, I'm going to say this. I tell my students this all the time. You got me started again. Is that it's a good life. It's a good life. It's like being a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer. Now, maybe not lawyers, you know, bottom-dwelling, blood-sucking lawyers. But you will be able to live well. You'll be able to buy a car. You'll probably be able to buy a home. Probably be able to go on vacation occasionally if you can get away from the job. Of course, you know, life mix and work, you want to make sure you keep them separate, because it is a profession that can take hold of. That's one of the reasons we have ACAN. Accountants tend to be perfectionists. You know, it's off by 20 cents. We're going to find that 20 cents before we go home tonight, right? Okay. So you got to pull back a little bit sometimes. But it's a life that is, you won't go begging. If you're an accountant and you don't get in trouble, now you don't get in trouble a little bit. Like my friend says, you've got to be honest, and you've got to associate. You've got to have your journal of accountants laying on your desk when someone comes and says, can we kind of fudge on this accounting? No, we can't. They'll try to salami, that negotiating technique. They take one slice of the salami and another. Next thing you know, you have none of the salami left. They slice it all up, and you don't have any integrity left. Like what happened to Aaron Bean with Health South. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're done.
Thank you, Toby.